Dear students, today I shall be talking on Gandhi's view on state and democracy. Mahatma Gandhi was basically a social worker. He was neither a politician nor a political thinker in the true sense of the term. Yet, he developed his own philosophy and ideas as he tackled various social, economic, and political issues during pre-independence India. Two things were very dear to him, and that is truth and non-violence. His entire philosophy was based on his principles of truth and non-violence on one hand and ends and means on the other. For him, truth is the end and non-violence is the means. Gandhi did not have a fixed idea of the state. His idea of the state was a progressive one. His main aim was to uplift the human life, so he considered the state to be a necessary evil. For him, the state represents violence in a concentrated and organized form. The individual has a soul, but as the state is a soulless machine, it can never be weaned from violence to which it owes its very existence. Gandhi's actual idea was to achieve an ideal state, which he called it Ram Rajya, which means the kingdom of God on earth. This was his vision for an independent India. In such a state, according to Gandhi, everyone is his own ruler. He rules himself in such a manner that he is never a hindrance to his neighbor. In his ideal state, there is no political power because there is no state. It is a situation where no decision is taken that harms even a single person, where every voice is heard, and where justice is swift and accessible even to the poorest, the weakest, and the marginalized. Ram Rajya is an ideal form of government where the ruler and subjects have a sort of a parent-child relationship where the subjects can approach the ruler anytime with whatever problems they have, and the ruler works for his or her subjects with a sense of duty, responsibility, and love. It would be an ideal state where even the subjects are righteous, nobody steals, and nobody speaks any untruth. Gandhi himself maintained that the state can never attain the status of his ideal. All that is possible is the gradual progression of the actual state towards the ideal. Thus, Gandhi used his concept of non-violent state in achieving his ideal state. To Gandhi, the state is not an end in itself, but one of the means of enabling people to better their condition in every department of life. Thus, he did not accept the Hegelian view of the state as the final goal of human organization. To him, the state is one of the means to secure the greatest good of all. To that end, it will give to the individual maximum opportunity for growth. But as the state is rooted in violence, it exploits the poor, and by enforcing certain actions restricts the scope for self-rule on the part of the individuals. So, in a predominantly non-violent society, the state will govern the least and use the least amount of force. In a non-violent state, authority would be decentralized. Gandhi was against centralization, for it leads to absolutism and centralization of power with its likelihood of its abuse. Gandhi gave scope to individual and liberty. The state should guide the individuals by appealing to their morality. In his opinion, decentralization of political power will lead to growth of individuals' enthusiasm, resourcefulness, initiatives, creativeness, and develop non-violent mind. The functions of the state will be gradually reduced and transferred to voluntary associations. Gandhi, however, was not a doctrinaire. He would decide every case on its own merit where state action is likely to advance the welfare of the people. He would welcome it in spite of his distrust of the state in performing its functions. The object of the state will be to serve the masses. Gandhi insisted that every interest that is hostile to that of the masses must be revised or must subside if it is incapable of revision. Mahatma Gandhi was also an ardent believer in the theory and practice of democracy. His belief was based on his conception of democracy, which was quite different from classical democracy of the West. He firmly believed in the democratic principles of equality, liberty, and justice. Gandhi also supported the Western democratic principles of sovereignty of the people, universal adult franchise, one man, one vote, representation, etc. However, he was of the opinion that the transplantation of Western democracy into India had not solved the problems of social disorder, economic stagnation, and political instability. Gandhi was of the opinion that the pervasive ills of the Indian society like corruption, indiscipline, violence, etc. was primarily the result of India's adoption of the Westminster model of parliamentary democracy, totally ignoring the particularistic conditions prevailing within the country. In Hind Swaraj, Gandhi severely criticized the Mother of Parliaments, commenting that if Parliament consists of the best men elected by enlightened voters, it should not need the spur of petitions or any other pressures. Its work would be so smooth that its effect should be more apparent day by day. But as a matter of fact, it is generally acknowledged that the members are hypocritical and selfish. Each think of his own little interests. Besides, Parliament is mercurial and unsteady in its fidelity to ministers. Today, it is under Mr. Ascot. Tomorrow, it may be under Mr. Balfour. Another instance of Parliament's fickleness is that there is no certainty about its decision. What is done today may be undone tomorrow. In respect of the principles of election and representation, Gandhi was of the view that instead of direct elections, indirect elections would serve the purpose more fruitfully. Only at the base level, the villagers would elect their Gram Panchayats through direct elections, but subsequently, at all higher levels, the elections would be indirect in form and substance. The Gram Panchayats would elect the District Panchayats. The District Panchayats, in turn, would elect the State Panchayat, and so on, right up to the national or apex level. Gandhi was opposed to bicameral legislature as he believed that single chamber could perform all the functions which the lower and upper chamber together were supposed to do. Maybe he felt that the upper chamber was merely a duplication of effort and hence its elimination could bring about much needed economy in expenditure. Gandhi held the opinion that in matters of conscience, the law of majority, which was the bedrock of Western democracy, had no place in his scheme of things. According to him, the state established by the non-violent revolution will be what has been called a spiritualized democracy. In such a democracy, the method of taking decisions by majority opinion will be ordinarily, though not always, applicable. In vital questions, the dissent of the minority will get the fullest consideration and will not be disregarded by the majority. According to him, an individual's opinion should have greatest weight than the opinion of many if that opinion is sound. This was his view of real democracy. The Gandhian model has significance for the modern world in two respects. In the first place, political power would eventually be vested in the hands of the weaker and underprivileged sections of the society. In any event, the powerful sections will have to share power with the backward and less fortunate sections of the society. In the second place, every democratic society can achieve an ideal condition in which every individual will have an opportunity to develop his personality to the highest possible level. The greatest merit of the Gandhian model of democracy was that it prescribed a qualitative change in the content and form of democracy. Thus, Gandhi's concept of ideal state was based on truth and non-violence. Besides, spiritualized democracy, emphasis on considering state as a means to an end, were some of the factors which made Gandhi's ideal state distinct. With this, we have come to the conclusion of the topic on Gandhi's concept of state and democracy. Thank you.